Please listen carefully.
Well, hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Christy Jansen.
And I'm Summers McKay.
And we are part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help us all get focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy podcast. Today is Monday, the 28th of February, 2022. Happy Monday, Christy. How are you today?
Happy Monday, Summers. I'm hanging in there.
Hanging in there?
I'm well. Yeah, well enough.
Good. We made a choice, as you all know, at the Optimist Daily over the weekend to cease publishing stories and instead offer resources for clear, factual, and truthful journalism regarding the Ukraine crisis. And I just want to thank everybody who is a subscriber and listener and reader of the Optimist Daily. We received such tremendous support from everyone for that decision. It was a big decision to take a site basically offline and instead redirect people elsewhere. And the amount of emails and messages, as well as people who just then also signed up to support the Optimist Daily that came through, was really, really meaningful. So we think we did the right thing. We're grateful that we were able to be of service, and it's good to be back publishing stories with the perspective that the world does need some additional support and help right now. So
it does. And it's hard when there's something like this, which is, it occupies all of our attention. I don't know about you, but I get sucked into it.
Yeah.
It's a big issue. It's scary. The implications are far reaching. On the other hand, things are still going on. We still have climate change. There's another big problem that it's out there,
right,
even if it's gotten pushed out of the news.
Right.
We still have social justice issues. We still have economic issues. There's still so much going on.
There's still so much that needs solution.
Yes. And there's still just our normal lives that we need tactics and ideas and connections to continue to feel positive and productive.
Well, and one thing we know about the Optimist Daily is that in times of uncertainty, a lot of people turn to our media to find things that they can control, to find lights to share with friends and family,
right,
and to find ways that they can improve their own lives in their own circles. My husband made a comment that with everything happening in the world right now, maybe the best thing we can all do is try to help or inspire the 5 people we love the most. So go to your inner circle and do the very best you can for them, and encourage everybody to do the very best they can for those they love. Being meticulous in caring for one another is the best thing we can all do.
I like that.
To that end, there are fantastic stories on the Optimist Daily, but I just want to talk about bacteria eating bugs.
Hey, no, this is a great story. Part of what I love about what we do is when the headlines are dominated by the dark and scary, the dark and stormy news, I like to say, it's easy to overlook that there's still really interesting, innovative approaches to solving the big problems that also need to be addressed. And there's really interesting work going on. That's what we like on the headlines of the Optimist Daily.
Exactly.
So what's your headline?
So I'm going to frame my headline in that I love cleaning things. I am very tidy. My husband will say, why aren't you just chilling out while I'm furiously cleaning counters and scrubbing kitchens? And I love mopping, because for me, that tidiness is zen. So this story made me really excited, because if you think about all those chemicals we use to clean, you wouldn't even necessarily think about how much carbon is released in actually making those chemicals.
Right.
Well, scientists at Lanza Tech in Illinois have engineered some exciting new bacteria that actually eats carbon dioxide and transforms it into ethanol and isopropanol, compounds that are used in paint remover, hand sanitizer, and other cleaners.
I like the headline. Read the headline for everybody.
Oh, you're right. This bacteria eats carbon emissions and makes useful chemicals. Lead scientist Michael Kupka and his colleagues went on a hunt for strains of these ethanol-producing bacterium. I'm going to try to say this. Clostridium autoethanogium.
Doesn't really matter. Just know it's ethanol-producing bacteria. It's a bacteria that makes ethanol in its normal process.
Yeah. Exactly. And so identifying the enzymes that would allow the microbes to create acetone and combine the genes for these enzymes into one organism. They then repeated the process for isopropanol, which is also used as a disinfectant. The result is an engineered bacteria that ferments carbon dioxide from the air to make these chemicals. Basically, think about like a process similar to brewing beer, but instead of using a yeast strain that eats sugar to make alcohol, there's a microbe that can eat carbon dioxide. Conventionally, these chemicals are made using fossil fuels via a process that emits 2.5 kilograms and 1.86 kilograms of carbon dioxide per kilogram of acetone and isopropanol, respectively. If Kopka and his team's engineered bacteria is widely adopted, there could be a 160% drop in greenhouse gas emissions, the researchers say.
So instead of emitting carbon to create these useful chemicals, now the process absorbs the carbon out of the atmosphere and creates these useful chemicals.
Exactly. And the way that this can expand into other things is that the team hopes these findings can offer a blueprint for more chemicals to be produced in a carbon negative way.
Oh, I love it.
So it's just about rethinking how we make things. You know, we talk about like reducing the carbon footprint of clothing and the carbon footprint of how we live in our homes. And now we can reduce the carbon footprint of how we clean our homes.
Right. And I just feel like we're on the cusp of a new era of industrial production.
Exactly.
That gets away from the petrochemical process and uses biological processes to create the things we know how to use.
Yeah, reducing that reliance on the petroleum industry and instead moving toward creative, scientific-y, fun ways.
Amazing. I like it. And this is not just carbon neutral, it's carbon negative. It takes carbon out of the atmosphere. High five, guys in Lanza Tech.
Yeah, Michael Kopke.
Michael Kopke, good job. My headline is also sort of a fun science story that has to do with eating, maybe, because I like to eat a lot, which means I have a little bit of extra fat in my body. But it turns out fat's actually a really important organ. It's an important part of our bodies, and we've been trained to hate it and to feel like it's something to be ashamed of. But in fact, it has some important uses in how our body functions. And my headline reads, "Exercise trains your fat to help you age well." I just like the idea that my exercise isn't about getting rid of my fat, but rather training it to perform more productively. It's just a better reframing. That's like, talk about reframing, which is what we like to do at the Optimist Daily.
Exactly. This is asset framing versus deficit framing.
Right, exactly.
Your fat is your asset.
So exercise is not about removing it. It's about making it be more effective and efficient. So we know that exercise helps us improve our muscle strength. It helps us improve our cardiovascular system. It helps us improve our immune system. But it also helps us improve our metabolic fat cells and their function. And this is from a recent study that came out of the University of Copenhagen that shows that properly trained fat cells can actually help protect against long-term diseases and decline in aging. So it helps you age better. And as I said, we tend to hate our fat. We think about it as a bad thing, unsightly, too much food, too little exercise. We attack ourselves. We are critical of our friends and family members or other people we don't know if they have a little extra junk in the trunk, so to speak.
I don't know, Christy. As I've firmly anchored myself in my mid-40s, I am so grateful that I have like baby fat face. I still look like I'm in my 30s.
Like rosy cheeks. Yes, that's good. But fat cells have really important function like anything else. It's part of our body. And it's not like this horrible thing. Fat has always been a really important asset for human bodies. Anders Gudiksen, who's the professor who led this study, is talking about how fat is an organ that interacts with other organs and can optimize metabolic function. Among other things, fat tissue releases substances that affect muscle and brain metabolism when we feel hungry and much more. So it's important that fat tissue works the way that it should. That is something to appreciate. I just like the idea of learning to appreciate this part of my body that I have been trained to feel shame about. But in fact, it's great.
Well, you know, as any parent, I mean, as you look at a little tiny baby or a toddler and you look at their chubby thighs and their chubby arms, you know that fat is there to help them grow and learn, and like it's adorable.
Yeah.
So I think this goes back to knowing that it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And yes, we don't all have to eat like 73 Twinkies, but the fat is meaningful. So what does it do?
Okay, so fat cells have organelles inside them, which are called mitochondria. And you probably have heard of mitochondria, but they're basically little generators that are responsible for converting food into calories in order to feed the cells. And like all the other parts of our body, these mitochondria's ability to produce energy decreases as we age. And aging mitochondria also produce more harmful waste, which is called reactive oxygen species, or ROS for short. And ROS that isn't regularly disposed of damages cells and is thought to contribute to diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. And what the team in Copenhagen found is that as you exercise, it strengthens your fat and helps it regulate and dispose of those ROS waste that builds up in your cells. They did a study looking at the mitochondria of both older and younger men, some of whom regularly exercised and some of whom didn't. And they found that the older men who exercised regularly throughout their lives enjoyed that long-term benefit of mitochondria that was healthier and aged well, and it maintained the ability to regulate and dispose of these little ROS cells. So the takeaway from this is not to become a triathlete necessarily. I mean, if that's what floats your boat, great, do it. But the main idea is to maintain a healthy routine of regular movement that can help our fat cells remember how to function.
Exactly. Every time you said ROS, I was thinking ROUS from
the Princess Bride. I know. The rodents of unusual size.
Or reactive oxygen species.
Both frightening. Darren, we got to get rid of them.
Christy, thank you. This has been so much fun. We've got some other great headlines on today's Optimist Daily. Let's see. We've got a highway made from recycled diapers.
I know. I love it. Getting rid of plastic waste while also reforming our roads.
There is an article also that continues on our conversation about the Ukraine. Here's how we can help Ukraine right now. Reproductive justice. Colombia decriminalizes abortion. And how caffeine may reduce your risk of a heart attack. What else do we have, Christy?
There's a headline that reads, "Is this the end of organ transplant shortages?" Oh, that's curious. A cheeky browser that helps you pursue climate action. History of the buildup to the invasion of Ukraine, a little bit of history to balance out the headlines. And this startup uses electrochemistry to capture carbon, another important solution that deals with our overabundance of carbon in the atmosphere. There's more on theoptimistdaily.com. Everybody, thanks so much for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. It's been our pleasure and our honor to be here today to share solutions with you. We promise to keep sharing positive solution-based stories with ideas on how we can all participate in the changing world and help push it towards the good column in terms of its changes. And we promise to keep sourcing current events with accurate, legitimate sources and offering you the kinds of information that we all need to chart new paths for all of us.
Hey, everybody, please consider sharing a story on the Optimist Daily with someone you love today. Let's elevate each other. Let's inspire each other. And if you have the means, become an emissary. But more important to us, please just share some good.
And take care of the people you love.
We'll be back tomorrow with more solutions.